Ohio State versus Texas in the Cotton Bowl, and these two teams are probably more familiar with each other than they may seem on the surface. Sark and Ryan Day have faced off before. Go back a few years, the 2020 season, that national championship to end the year when Sark was the offensive coordinator for Alabama. They faced off before. Will Howard obviously has played Texas his entire career going back to the Big 12. I don't think he's ever beaten them, though. Caleb Downs, Seth McLaughlin coming from Alabama. Obviously, they played Texas last year. Quinn Ewers, former Buckeye. Let's just jump into the matchup. The Texas defense, probably the most athletic and maybe the best defense Ohio State has played all year or is going to play. And it's really between Penn State and Texas if you look at the best defenses the Buckeyes have played. Now, both of those teams have had bad days defensively. Penn State gave up 469 yards against Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Then Texas just gave up over 500 yards to Arizona State in the quarterfinal. But this Texas secondary makes plays. Per 11 Warriors, Texas is the only team in the country to intercept 20 passes and hold opponents to less than 170 yards passing per game. Jahdae Barron, the Jim Thorpe Award winner, 5 picks on the year. He finds the ball finds him. Very good player, and he makes plays. Safety Andrew Makuba has great range, also has 5 picks on the year. But when a defense is really dangerous and is really good is when you can pair a secondary like this that's talented and make plays along with a good front. Linebacker Anthony Hill, he's a problem. 16 TFLs on the year, 7.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. Obviously, the talented freshman and freshman of the year, Colin Simmons, coming off the edge. You can't talk about this Texas defense without mentioning his name. He has 9 sacks on the year, which leads their team. So does Texas have the pieces to slow down and challenge Ohio State? Yes. Are they going to stop them? No. I don't think any defense can stop this Ohio State offense at this point. The good news for Texas is that they're going up against this patchworked offensive line for Ohio State. So I don't know if they're going to throw the kitchen sink at this Ohio State offensive line and Will Howard and just see how they react. Now, to give credit where credit's due, Ohio State's offensive line, this is not the first time that they've worked together as a unit since all the injuries, and it's not the first time that they're going up against a talented front. They've played against Abdul Carter with Penn State, obviously Tennessee, James Pierce, and then Oregon twice, Mateo, Jordan Birch, Derek Harmon. So they've gone up against some really, really talented defensive fronts. Now, this Texas secondary, as good as it might be, they're just going to go up against the best receiver in the country, Jeremiah Smith, but not only that, the best receiver room in the country. You have Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate. So this secondary is going to have their hands full. On the flip side of this matchup, this Ohio State defense is playing aggressive. They're playing violently. They had 8 sacks against Oregon. They've peaked at the perfect time, and they've had a few big changes in the second half of this year. One change is the Caleb Downs factor. He was playing deep, playing back to start the year. Then they started moving him up in the box, and now he'll just read and react. Could have had multiple interceptions in the Rose Bowl against Oregon. Instead, they were just pass deflections, but you can just see he's almost at his own level, and he's just reading and reacting to everything. He's a special player. He's the best safety in the country, but also Ohio State has the best safety duo in the country when you consider Lathan Ransom. Coming downhill, he'll just trigger. He's one of Ohio State's best, if not their best run defender. He is playing very, very good football right now. So when these Ohio State safeties are flying around and making plays, and this is a safety-driven defense, that's when it causes a ton of problems. Another big change in the second half this year for this Buckeye defense is linebacker Cody Simon. He's really leveled up his game to an all Big Ten, maybe even an All-American level. He seems like he's involved in 10 to 12 tackles a game, flying all over the field, making plays. He's in the backfield, had some sacks against Oregon. And then this defensive line, JT and Jack Sawyer coming off the edge, 4-year players, former 5-star guys. They've had really good moments where they've peaked individually, but they've never been playing this well as a unit at the same time. And they've done this now for 2 consecutive games, Tennessee and Oregon, coming up with sacks, stuffing the run game, deflecting passes at the line of scrimmage. And now they're going up against this Texas offense that, if we're being honest, has some question marks. Quinn Ewers is a really good quarterback. He can be accurate with the ball, has a lot of experience as being a starting quarterback, but I think he has a clear ceiling. Now, it's a high ceiling, but I think from what we've seen when they've played Georgia twice this year, you have some concerns about how Quinn Ewers is going to perform when he's facing pressure. In those 2 games against Georgia, Quinn Ewers has completed less than 60% of his passes in each game, 3 touchdowns and 3 picks. So I think this Ohio State defense might take over this game. So that's one matchup to watch. Obviously, the other matchup to watch is that Texas secondary going up against the Ohio State receivers. I do not think Texas is a pushover opponent. I think they have a very good team. But overall, these matchups favor Ohio State, so I like the Buckeyes in this one.